All rise for the Rank King's Court.
Good afternoon, evening, whatever the time frame might be in your specific area. Welcome, everybody, to the greatest show that surfaces on the web, the Rank King's Court. Always 6:30 on Tuesdays. Man, it's a weird thing to say 6:30, right? Like some people should just say, "Oh, we're tuning in at 7. We're tuning in at 7. We're tuning in at 8."
Not here.
Not
here.
We go by 6:30s, people. 6:30.
That's our thing.
Yeah.
Be different.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Why fit in when you can stand out?
Exactly.
Mhm.
You get us.
Oh yeah, I'm picking up what you're putting down. We're all wrestling fans. I'm smelling what The Rock is cooking.
So, joined as always to the ranking himself, we have Noble Knight Greg, Oracle Vo. And if you haven't guessed, if you haven't been watching, you might hear that voice from somewhere. Please welcome everybody to the stage. Our guest for the evening, the one, the only, Dre Fry.
It's a metaphorical stage.
Man,
Welcome,
what
Trey,
an
welcome.
intro!
I should just be a thin Paul Heyman at this point. I am always.
It's an honor to be on the Rank King's Court. As much stuff as I give you, calling you Rank Queen. This is your show, so I will show you the proper respect, my man. Fellas, I'm glad to be here. I'm honored. Thank you for having me.
Dre, you seem to be thriving right now, bud, and I could tell you're in a mood, and this is gonna be a fun show, man.
It's gonna be a good one. I'm surprised it took you this long to get on here.
I am too. But at the same time, we need the perfect topic, and I think we have it. And I'm ready to discuss it. All I know is that, again, very honored to be here. Greg is right. I feel like I'm glowing. We sprung forward. NFL free agency is good, but that's not why we're here. So we won't divulge into that.
It is a conversation for a different day, as one would say. But before we get to tonight's topic, where exactly are the Noble Knight and Oracle hanging out this evening that is building the Rank King's Court? Where are we at, boys?
We're hanging out where we always hang out Tuesdays for the Rankings Court. We are live today from the Union Fitness Studios, located on the North Shore of Pittsburgh. Union Fitness is more than a traditional gym. It's a place where you can transform yourself inside and out, with a variety of classes based around fitness, yoga, strength, and performance training. At Union Fitness, they believe that it is their duty to hold themselves and their clients to a higher standard. They practice what they preach and uphold the values that make Union Fitness the community that it is. Go to unionfitness.com today to sign up for a consultation. Through Union, there is strength.
He'll get the hang of
Get
it.
this guy out of here.
He'll get the hang of it.
There you go.
I'm sorry. I'm just making sure I'm centered.
Yeah, just a little delay. Yeah, you were centered, but you move, and then it messes up all the time.
Yeah. You're not as bad as, I think we had one guest on that, just kept bobbing and weaving the entire time. So Vo's, over here just, annoyingly, trying to, maneuver the camera angle.
I would get it, and then he'd move over again. It's like, oh, I'm just going to let it go.
Yeah. He was so excited about the topic, too. I get it, but, yeah.
I understand. I usually I'm in a very hyper mood, but this is a topic I feel like is a different kind of it's a different kind of Dre.
Yeah, I don't think you'd be twitchy for this topic, bud. No offense.
No.
Maybe.
Well, it depends what we talk about, I guess. It depends what we're talking about.
It's funny that we say twitchy, right? Good old saying from the good old Terry Bear, Terry Morit, if you want to get centered, get a level. So all that's for in. Tonight's topic is one that Dre and I feel very, very strong on. One that I think that my girlfriend and I, how long did we binge this for? Like a week. So we binged this whole 2 seasons in like a week. So tonight's topic, we are talking all things Euphoria.
It's about to get real, and also
Very real.
off. That's an impressive binge.
Yeah, it's not as successful as my Stranger Things binges. I will drop everything and binge it through the entire night.
2 days.
Yeah,
if that.
Although I do feel like there's a big difference in the content between Euphoria and Stranger Things, bud.
There very well should be. So
They're all about kids, though.
They are about kids. You're not wrong.
Yeah. But yes, Euphoria, for those that didn't know, is an A24 produced show, which you guys
Is it really?
know I love. Oh yeah,
I did not know that.
If you guys didn't remember, when we had our A24 special that we talked about with Josh on here, the upcoming projects that were on here, Euphoria was one of the listed projects.
It was.
That was on here. So I knew that we were going to get something stunning, visually, and wow, does this show deliver on visuals of just feelings of just overall, I'm going to quote unquote say euphoria. I mean, this is literally what this show is. This show is all about, well, you know what? I'd be poor host if I didn't let my guests go ahead and dive into the topic of Euphoria. Dre, describe Euphoria. What does it for you, and why you're such a fan of it, man?
Well, I'm 100% blushing because you're giving me the honor to.
Doesn't happen often.
No.
Tonight, I'm knighting you.
I can see it too. I can see the rosy red on you, bud.
Sir Dre Fry here.
There you go.
First off, there's a fun fact I also want to divulge into. Drake is a producer.
Yep.
If you guys
that's
know
cool.
that.
Drake and Future, correct? Future is also producing on this.
Wow.
Yeah, but not the Future, not like the Future that we think. It's
right. Yeah.
Future. It's his friend Future. So
Although
they are also friends. So, anyways, Euphoria. What it's about? Let's see. It's extremely dramatic. I've described it as 13 Reasons Why on steroids. Yeah, and it touches on a lot of serious topics that teenagers could struggle with, and it even takes a lot of that to the extreme, but it divulges in a lot of things such as sex, drug use, even deception, like things you see in high school that you're not gonna stabbing friends in the back. And you would think that for a high school, and I'm gonna say this is California, but a high school in California wouldn't go as far as doing a lot of things that happen in the show. But there's a lot of things, and I'm not even doing it justice because there's a lot of other things like sexuality in terms of men loving men, gay, a lot of gay relationships, females as well. There's even it even talks about the struggles of one of the characters dealing with transsexuality. So it really divulges on a lot of I don't want to call it hot topics, but a lot of topics that are extremely sensitive. And before every show, there's always a warning. Before the season starts, there's always a warning that everything is extremely graphic. Mm-hmm. So when you go into, if you have not seen the show, you have to understand one thing, and that's it. This is dramatized, but at the same time, on an extremely lesser extent. There's a lot of topics that are covered in the show that people deal with on a day-to-day basis. So it's a really great. In my opinion, it's a really great dramatic portrayal of a lot of stuff that most people cannot relate to, mm-hmm. and then it deals with a lot of stuff that people can relate to. And again, I feel like my explanation's not doing it real justice because there's a lot of other things like depression and even getting to the point where you talk about things like murder. Like it gets that far. So, but it's only been 2 seasons, and I can't remember a show outside of The Leftovers, which ironically also is on HBO, where 2 seasons just blew everyone away. But
Right.
in terms of viewership, I want to say the season finale was the most viewed HBO show ever, which passed The Sopranos for one single episode, which is very impressive because The Sopranos last episode came out, I believe, in like 2007.
Yeah.
So,
There's I mean, I appreciate the statement because the show has what he has said. There's multitudes of different things from different variations of drug use to finding different sexual identities and different sexualities that come along with it. And with that comes along all the quote unquote bull, so to speak, that everyone deals with in high school. It's just that's how it has always been. And yes, stuff is taken to the extreme here, but like Dre said, it is not uncommon to find that people are dealing with these similar issues. And let me just point it out here: Zendaya, who also, from what I remember, is also a producer on this show. Phenomenal in this. She nails this character. I love her. I hate her. Like it's all that comes to mind. And I want to get into this because I feel like now I'm dragging. So
I mean, I'm pretty sure she also won an Emmy from season 1 too for this portrayal as well. So I'm not surprised she's so good at this.
She will probably win one for season 2 as well because her performance in season 2 was just absolutely phenomenal. And we will get into that, I'm sure, as well. But yeah, it's an amazing show. Like for all the viewers and everything, if they haven't seen it, I hope we're not going to spoil this for you to watch.
Well, it's, I mean, quote unquote, the big. I wish we could put flashing lights, but then
Spoiler alert! Spoiler.
Yes. Spoilers for people watching this. I'll do like the High School Musical spirit finger. Spoilers. Spoiler alert for this show, guys. Because it is so many. I want to point out it's so big. The fact I think the last time it was like a year hiatus between season 1 and season 2. We're not getting season 3 until 2024. So
wow. Oh my god.
So there's a lot of time to catch up if you're not
a binger. There's a lot to dissect through everything. So, if you love this show after, please go watch it. You won't be disappointed. Let us not waste any more time. Let's divulge into Radical Ranking number 1. When you have a show like Euphoria that has been so successful in just developing different personalities, you have to realize that what drives that, other than the writing, is the characters. And for me, this is what we're getting into first. We're getting into the top 5 Euphoria characters. Now, everybody's is going to be different. Mine is always the best, and mine is always the number one thing to do.
Debatable.
Yeah,
That's debatable.
If you haven't known if you haven't known this by now, then why are you clicking on if you don't want to understand knowledge? I am a encyclopedia of information. Book that.
It's a very, very small encyclopedia for anyone who's curious.
That's very rude, Greg. I'm very Kings can get emotional sometimes. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
So let's start off with maybe a hot take for some people, but she thrived for me in season 2. Was not the same person that she was in season 1. Number 5 for me is Maddie.
Okay, see, I've only been introduced to season 1 Maddie, so that's what I'm going off of right now. So I don't really like her.
There are definitely times where Maddie has almost disgusted the crowd when playing off of the different points and viewpoints and everything. But season 2, we saw a huge revival in a character that she really didn't have in season 1 because she was playing off of a bigger character that we'll get down the road. It was almost like she was in the shadow of that individual character. And once that is like broken, we finally see her develop more and flourish in her own abilities. And I'm going to be honest, I think she's hilarious. I think that every piece of dialogue that comes out of this girl's mouth is absolutely hysterical. Whether it's something as simple as, "That's so stupid. Why are you?" I'm not even kidding you. It is the stereotypical like popular girl dialogue. It is absolutely hysterical. But there are multitudes of scenes where like the viewership kind of cringes when they hear Maddie. But I mean, like you said, different from season 1 and season 2. Vo, obviously not the biggest fan, but Dre, give me your thoughts on, does Maddie deserve to be in the top 5 of characters?
I do. I believe I believe she does deserve to be in the top 5. I find her character growth extremely impressive, to be honest. So if you ranked her higher, I wouldn't have been surprised. But I like her 5, and that gives me intrigued to see what the rest of her ranking, the rest of your rankings are. Excuse me. She went from crazy girlfriend who loves to be manipulated to the manipulator in some senses, and then went from there to she went from a victim in that instance to this strong, independent woman in her growth. And you can see this through season 2 mainly as her growth. But she had help from, I can't remember her name on the show, but I do know her in another show, Lila Garrity from Friday Night Lights. Kind of really helped her into that strong, independent type woman. And I think it all came full circle whenever the season finale was there, whenever she finally got revenge on Cassie for some things, which I'm sure we will divulge into here in a second. I'm trying not to spoil too much without
Spoilers.
actually.
We're all good.
Oh,
We're all
man.
good.
I know. It's not that. I want to find the right time to spoil on some of these things that I'm talking about. So I don't want to give too much away too early. So
That's
but what I will say is her 5. I enjoyed that. I like that, and her growth has really been impressive.
Yeah, there's a I'm letting everyone know though that there is a character that is not on this list that should be on this list, but I went in a different direction, mainly because I couldn't leave this character off the list, because if he wasn't here, then she would most likely be in here. But this character made me feel so loved and full of knowledge, and that's why for me Ali is number 4 on my list. I love the character of Ali. So background for you guys, Ali, essentially a former quote unquote crackhead, now is going through, been clean for I want to say double-digit years, has a, we never see them, but he has a 2 daughters and everything that they live with like their mom and everything. But he becomes Rue's, who Zendaya's character, essentially mentor. That tries to put her in the right place of mind, no matter how self-destructive she might be. And honestly, he was gonna be like outside the top 5, but then I watched the special. Then I watched Rue's special, where it's literally just her and him in a diner for I want to say a good 40 minutes of just talking. And man, it's powerful stuff. Like, it's unreal just how gripping a character can be that seemingly almost feels like on the outs of all the other characters. So I wanted to bring to light to his character, and it's one of the saddest scenes that we see in season 2 that was almost in my mind uncalled for, but let's just put it on the rails of, Rue is supposed to be clean. She's not, and Ali catches her in a bad time, and she kind of wishes something that I assume we'll go into more detail throughout the show, but those things that you say that you shouldn't say, and Ali's like almost like explodes like on the scene, which we never see this dude angry, like absolutely not whatsoever. And it was almost pure shock because, like of how he lost his kids, of how he struggled with his battle with crack. Like, it is just so unreal. And to me, knowing that knowledge and his persona and what he does gives him all the more right to be in this top 5.
I'm not gonna lie, I wouldn't put him there, but I'm actually kind of glad that you did, because Ali, in my opinion, is a very important character. He, to me, portrays the father figure that Rue doesn't have, but Rue needs. He is her sponsor for her quote-unquote recovery. But the one thing that he knows more so than anyone else is he sees right through her in terms of her fakeness towards recovery. And he does not judge her one bit at all, except for that one instance, because and I'll say the words, quote unquote, that he said, I told you something in confidence. You don't get to use that against me. Because he divulged, he divulged so much detail about his past regarding his addiction and his domestic abuse, which was not portrayed in the show, but he mentions that in that diner scene in one of the episodes. But what I love about Ali is the fact that even after the scene that Austin's talking about, he's still there for Rue and forgives her. And that to me is the end game that Rue needs to see. That's why he's such an important character, because if Rue is going to get clean and get forgiveness for all the bridges she's burned due to her addiction, Ali's the man that kind of portrays what she can be in terms of personality and, be that beam of light. So I like that you brought him into this spotlight, Austin.
Just seems like he deserves it, man. Like, honestly, after, his story and whatever that we've, the dialogue and how the character is portrayed, like, it's so wonderful to see, like, that there still be a decent amount of humanity in the show.
Yeah.
So it's nice for that.
I'm sure he'd appreciate being on your top 5 too.
Well, yeah.
If we let him
of course,
go,
yeah.
Quote unquote is an honor, so to speak. Let's move into number 3, and that being Jules. I loved this character from the very beginning, because we see that, it's almost that Jules is kind of self-destructive herself. There's in episode 1, we see that, it is a house party, and Nate, the I don't even know what to call him.
The jock.
Piece of crap. Like,
psychotic jock.
Psychotic jock. That's a perfect description.
Like, makes it very uncomfortable for the fact that he does not know Jules and does not want to know Jules.
Yeah, she's the new girl in town, so no one knows her.
Yeah. So Jules, in response to almost match psychotic with psychotic, like, cuts her arm, like, right in front of everyone. She's like, "You want to mess with me? You want to mess with me?" Like, it was like, I was like, holy cow.
Right.
No.
Yeah, my jaw dropped.
Yeah.
I was not expecting that at all.
I wasn't either.
But what builds this character is just everything that happens around Jules. Some of the craziest things I've ever seen, to which, I mean, she basically, like, goes and, like, tries to, she has this thing with men. Like, she loves to hang out in hotel rooms and, not bringing that to.
Is that how you describe it, Austin? Yin, yin, yin.
If I could show you with hand puppets, I would, but I feel like that'd be it.
Okay.
Hand puppets?
I wish I had that.
I mean, he is a professional educator, so I'm not surprised that he has that readily available.
But
we have bobbleheads here.
We do have bobbleheads. That might help.
God, we're not doing it with bobbleheads.
It might help.
But there's so much that revolves around the character of Jules, to, like, the instance of, like, that's why Rue is getting clean, to Nate's underwhelming psychotic obsession, to his dad, which I'm breaking the ice right now. His dad has sex with her, but doesn't know that she's under 18.
Mm-hmm.
And that builds, like, a whole, like, premise. Not only that, he films it. Like, it's a whole, like, it's crazy.
It's crazy, man. Greg.
Talk about a fetish.
Yeah.
Yeah, fetish.
Yeah.
Oh goodness.
If you only knew what.
I don't know. Don't call that a fetish. That's more of a lifestyle.
Yeah. But I mean, I love Jules because she brings this almost like vibrant energy to like a decaying personality of a show that almost revives it in a sense, if that makes sense in any sort of way. I don't know if it does, but Dre,
It kind of does. So what I like about Jules, and obviously she has to be in this list. What I like about Jules is to me, she's kind of like the opposite of Maddie in terms of character growth. She was introduced into the show, episode 1, as this fake prostitute. It seemed like a fake prostitute as she hooks up with this random guy in a hotel based off an app, which we later found out is actually Nate's dad, which was a crazy twist in itself. But she was also, later that night, after she left, she went to that party and cut her wrist with Nate, to basically stand up to Nate. And then you see her compassion. You see the compassion in her kind of grow as she grows, as her relationship grows with Rue into more than just a friendship. It grows into an actual love. And, she at that point, a lot of her craziness kind of disappeared. I think the peak of her craziness was probably her cutting her wrist to stand up to Nate. But the biggest thing I like about Jules is she's fearless.
Yeah.
And she kind of has to be as they divulge into her episode where she's lived her whole life as, dealing with transsexuality, where she was born one way, walks around, feeling another way, and she's had to deal with that. So of course she's going to stand up to people like Nate Jacobs. Of course she's not scared of Cal Jacobs or anybody like that, because she's dealt with so much in her life. She's been there, done that. So, obviously she has to be in this list, but I would probably put her, if I'm going to do these ranks, I'd probably put her 4. But I like her at 3 because she's a very important character.
Right. Now I want to make it very clear. This is not on our producer, Ryan Votash. I had wanted to change number 2, and I never did. So what's going to happen is I'm going to go and explain number 2 here, and then I'll explain who should be at number 2.
Causing problems on air, man. Really?
That's not him. It's me. That's me, man.
Yeah, we know.
Oh, we know. All
right, who's your number 2?
Yes, quote unquote.
Number 2 on this list currently is Lexi. And to me, I loved Lexi for the pure thought, quote unquote word, is that she was pure. She seemed like the only person in this entire show that was not.
She was normal. Yeah.
No, we don't want to say normal, but she was like, she didn't have anything to do with any drugs. She didn't have any like problems or anything accumulating towards sexuality or anything of that. She was just Lexi, and her personality carried her rather than different things that happened to her, if that makes sense. So I thought she was important. I don't know why I must have been drinking more than I should have to put her at 2, but she is at 2 currently.
She admitted it.
Austin, for some reason I had Bob Ross typed out. I don't know if this is her Halloween costume. No, like she dressed as Bob Ross on the show.
Oh, okay.
But like I don't even
true.
remember typing Bob Ross on there.
But she, which is funny because they go to a Halloween party and everybody's dressed sexy, and she's going as Bob Ross, which I think is absolutely hilarious.
That's her character,
Exactly.
She's not gonna dress sexy. She's gonna dress like who she wants.
Exactly. And to me, yes, she is like a very minor character in season 1, but season 2, we really start to see Lexi come out as towards her character, which we'll get into later. The true number 2 on this list is Rue. Rue, for me, the main character of this show. Maybe I did it maybe when I made this list, I didn't finish the whole way through and I was angry and I didn't put her. Maybe that's why. But
Yeah, I was shocked
Rue,
that she wasn't on there at first.
yeah, I know. She
Wait, you
is,
didn't put her on the list?
No.
Holy crap, man.
No, she was supposed to be at 2. I just never changed it. So she is number 2. And man, a Zendaya with this character, my God, like deserves every award under the sun. Like,
But apparently not
it
good
is
enough to be on the
beautiful.
top 5 for the ranking.
I was shocked. I thought he was gonna say we weren't gonna count Rue. I thought that's how he was gonna
No,
cover himself.
no, I mean it's a thing on me. I'm making that known. It's not anyway. Rue for this, it's what I said at the beginning. Like, you love her and you hate her, but you have to understand is that hate is a strong word because she is a true addict. Like, she is dealing with all kinds of jeez, man. From there's a scene that I want to touch on later in the show that blew my mind away, as that she is trying to drag everybody down with her.
Or in the village is what I call the scene.
Oh,
I know
yeah,
what scene you're talking about.
But it is, her character is, I almost like proclaim to like the shirt. Like it gives off like a happiness vibe in a sense, but there's literally nothing there because it is all mellowed out by drugs. And we see that because in the first episode, we find out that before anything has gone on, that she had relapsed, that she was doing drugs. She started doing drugs at age 13 when her dad had cancer, and he started taking his medication and everything to essentially numb all feelings of everything. We find out that she had overdosed and she is coming back from rehab. But the thing is, the whole point of rehab is that you're clean. Well, in the first episode, we find out that she had no intention of staying clean. Whether it is borrowing pee that is not contaminated from her friend Lexi, to overall just being one of the greatest tragic characters I think I've ever seen in a show come to life. You feel for her, you understand, like, she meets Jules, essentially starts off best friends, and then eventually falls in love with her. And she stays clean for that entire time because she wants to be with Jules. She wants to be like that person of connection. But as we all know, demons emerge and they come back in a very furious fashion that ultimately like changes. This character is always, I always say, like a flip of a coin. You don't know what you're going to get, and no matter what you get, it is the correct answer.
So I'm going to touch on Lexi for a bit, and then I'm going to kind of dive more into Rue. So one thing that I really like about Lexi is her innocence, but at the same time, Lexi's not as 100% pure as what everyone says she is in season, and we kind of see that as she's an enabler to Rue in her addiction. She also sort of falls for the drug dealer who is, more morally, I love him. I think he got great morals as a person, but ultimately the way he survives is dealing drugs, which is, extremely, taboo. But the point of the matter is that, Lexi kind of gets walked over in some senses, but also as we see in her play in season 2, we can see that the way she kind of just sits back and like watches everything, but her play brought everything to life. The play within the show, I thought, was done extremely well, and to see her have her own, to see her creativity come to life, it explains why she loves Bob Ross, because she loves the arts, and her appreciation for the arts, for her to do that was base her play off her life situations. I thought was amazing. Now Rue is extremely self-destructive in this. She portrays a drug addict so perfectly that you would think that she was an actual drug addict. Like it's insane. The deception, the fakeness, the lying, and not just lying to Jules, who is her love interest, the lying to her own drug dealer in Fez, the lying to her sister, the person who found her on the floor, just overdosed, lying to her sponsor, lying to a bigger drug dealer to get her fix. She does not care. She's extremely self-destructive and does not care as long as she gets high. That is the absolute ultimate sign of a drug addict. And no one knows until she gets caught. And again, that's another big sign of a drug addict. Like, they just don't care. They only care about one thing, getting their high, and they don't care who they hurt. So what they do is they hide it. Now, what I will say is that what Austin didn't touch on is she was completely fine until she met Elliot. So Elliot helped contribute to her self-destructiveness because he did not know of her past, which I can't blame him for, but she saw as an opportunity to take advantage of him. So, but that, again, explains how self-destructive that Rue is. She deserves all the Emmys. Give her a damn Oscar. It's not even a movie. Just give it to her because the character is absolutely incredible.
And it's not only that, is that we see, like, we touched on characters that she's like lied to, deceptive. I mean, her mom, like, it is heartbreaking because, like, she has to take different drug tests and everything, and what normally happens in order to pass them, like I said, she literally went over to Lexi's and asked her for clean pee, and she taped it to her leg so when she sat down and acted like she was peeing, she would insert that in there so that it would remain clean. But the ultimate art is that, she is a drug addict, but she is the one line that makes me absolutely deserving of why she should and will and ultimately should be a number 2 and not Lexi, is her quote from her and Ali at the diner, to where Ali literally went on, it had to have been like a 10, 12-minute monologue. And then her response after was just, Ali, I really don't plan on being here that long. Like, that speaks a lot to everything that he just said. Out the door. Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. In one ear, out the other.
Exactly. And then at number 1, love this character from the beginning. It is Fezco at number 1. I love Fez more than anything.
He is a good character, for sure.
A high school dropout that starts dealing drugs, which I've heard the grapevine that he has maybe been agreeing to a part to play Mac Miller in a Mac Miller film down the road, which would be insane to say the least. But his portrayal of, yes, he is a drug dealer, but he's a drug dealer, as Dre said, with morals. There is a scene where Rue shows up and needs drugs, and after situation that happened with a not bigger drug dealer, but the middle drug dealer that we'll get into like down the road, essentially gives Rue at one point, forces her to take fentanyl, and immediately like throws a whole curveball of imbalance. So when Rue comes back for drugs, Fezco literally is like, nah, can't help you, man. You gotta go. And it shows that, like, yes, he makes living off of selling drugs, but Rue is his family, and he won't like put her in any more jeopardy.
Yeah, he actually cares about her.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we start to see like Fez develop like with more emotions, especially, which I was rooting for it all of season 2, because Fezco and Lexi start to fall for each other, and I said, please make this happen. Please make this happen. This dude deserves one piece of happiness in his life. Overall, it's just amazing. He essentially is caring for his grandmother, who is in a coma, all while taking care of his younger brother. Gotta love the name of Ashtray.
I'm surprised he wasn't on this list.
Well,
You don't say anything.
Yeah, he's just the enforcer. He's like
he's the money man.
Yeah. But to me, man, like, yes, you could argue Rue maybe should be at 1, but I fell in love with Fezco. Not once did I go, that dude's a piece of crap in this entire show. I stayed with him throughout, and I enjoyed the character very much.
I mean, Fez has to be on this list. Seeing the rankings, I'm actually extremely shocked you didn't put Nate Jacobs on this list.
I hate Nate. I won't put him.
That's
I
why.
do too. I do too, but that's why
That's
he's
why-
gonna be on the list. He's
yeah.
the ultimate heel. So
He's number 6.
Running joke on this show. But yeah, Dre, going a little bit, I know you touched on him for a little bit. Just going a little bit of detail of why Fez deserves to be maybe not at number 1 for you, but just to be on the list.
Oh, 100% deserves to be in the list. Like I said, he's a drug dealer with morals, which is something you will never ever see. But his protection of Rue is extremely passionate, and it gets to a point where it's actually kind of sad because there's one point where he understands he has to burn a bridge in order to basically kick her out of his house. And it sucks because he loves her, but he's only doing it to protect her, sort of save her. He's run into a lot of different moments too. Specifically, another one with Nate Jacobs' dad, Cal, where before I go into Cal, actually, I will say the one moment where everyone who watches this show probably fell in love with Fez was when he beat the hell out of Nate Jacobs. And Nate deserved it, but, Nate was threatening him because he knew about his business. And then he just went too far because Nate has this portrayal of I'm untouchable. Fez absolutely humbled this dude so bad that he never, ever, ever wanted to mess with him again. And it got to the point where his dad thought he was going to do something about it because Nate lied about why he got beat up by Fez. Then Fez was like, this ain't happening. Ashtray bashed his dad in the face with a shotgun, drug him in the house, and was like, I don't even know what you're talking about. I have nothing to do with this.
That scene was so funny.
Yeah, he's like, your crazy family problems, y'all don't bring that here. Just keep your son away from me, sir, and we good. Stop bleeding on my floor and get out of my place.
I still gotta watch that episode then.
Yeah, I know. You gotta watch all this still. To close out that sense, and then we'll move on to the second radical ranking. The reason that even Fezco is so furious at Nate is because at one night there is a police report put out that there are a massive amount of drugs at Fez's house. Who could that have been? Oh, probably was the guy that was threatening me. So yeah, and he absolutely you think New Year's, the new things are coming, everything's good. And then he just beats the hell out of him. Like, oh my, not even without a blink of an eye. We finally saw all this kind of rage that we never really saw out of Fez just come out. And it was shocking to a lot of people.
It was, but at that point you're already sympathized with him, and you just get the sense that snitches get stitches, and he didn't even get the proof. He just kind of assumed, and then he's just like, "Nah, I'm gonna do it."
Yeah,
I mean, we knew as the audience. They didn't know, and they didn't portray that in the show. So
there's an English term for that. We'll look up that later. But let's get on to radical ranking number 2. All right, let's dive in. I think this will be the funnest part of this show, honestly. These are the top predictions I have for Euphoria Season 3.
Ooh.
So, yeah, there's a lot that went into this. Some maybe not as clever, but I think will be justified. Let's hit number 5. Kat will go back to her cam sessions. This was probably the weirdest. There's a lot of weird.
You popped Dre.
This was yeah.
Is this a prediction, or is this what you want to see?
I'm afraid he's gonna choke on his own tongue in the middle of explaining it.
Oh, I'm sorry, I just can't. In my opening monologue regarding the show, that's the one thing that 100% is dramatized in the show that I don't think a normal person would do. But yeah, she behind closed doors just goes on webcam and is in this lingerie and is twerking for these people who love her online. But like, if you don't know the character Kat, she's also, and I'm not judging here, but she's like the big girl in school. So, you know, and she's friends with Maddie, you know, she's in the circle, but like in terms of like the sexuality part of her, she's overlooked by a lot of people. So that's where she's able to sort of come out of her shell, and it's portrayed online, and she does it for all these creeps, and
And they pay her for it.
underage. When she first did it, the scene that just keeps popping in my head. Is the when she first did it, and there's that guy. It's like, Queen Kitty, I love you, and like, oh, that's the scene.
She
It's
wears like a
forever
cat mask.
ingrained in
Oh
She's
my
got Queen
god.
Yeah, it's mind you, I watched this with my girlfriend, and we looked at each other. And we were just like, "What the world is going on here?" But I mean, to start all of this, like, she had never had sex before. So one night at a party, she finally hooks up. Little does she know that she was filmed the whole time, and this video got out all over the internet. And so she was like petrified, as most people would be, that was put on the internet. But then she finally realizes that all of this attention that she's getting from this is just overwhelming to her. So she, instead of despising it, embraces it. And as Dre said, comes out of her sexuality shell. Like, she starts like wearing like stuff that she actually loves more, and like loving herself more. So that comes a long way with this character. And I just think that she was in a relationship with this kid in the show.
Ethan.
And I think that the writing was kind of bad for how it ended. But I think it's going to turn where she eventually goes back to doing her cam sessions.
Yeah, I also want to say one thing about that is the cam sessions gave her a level of confidence.
Yeah.
That you know, is really nice to see in her growth. But Ethan was a good person for her and loved her no matter what, and he, you know, ultimately she just didn't want to be with him, and she found reasons to break up with him. Like, that's all there is to it. That's the only way.
Yeah, the reason was bad. The reason was so bad. It was so
stupid.
Bad.
It was a typical high school reason. It's stupid.
Yep. Number 4, Dre I think is the only one that can attest to this, because we haven't really gone down the line with Bo yet. But number 4, Cassie will be put in a psych ward.
Oh, that's a wild prediction.
So, Cassie in again, spoilers. Cassie in the first episode of season 2 is just kind of getting over her breakup with her old boyfriend. That was very, very touched out of place, and I thought was like, whoa, like that's crazy. But she ends up getting a ride to the party with one Nate Jacobs, who is still on and off break with her best friend Maddie. And what ends up happening? The two go into a bathroom and they start kissing, they start like all of it. And Maddie ends up knocking on the door, and a huge tense scene was like piercing through my soul at that point, that she's hiding in this bathtub as Nate's coming out, and she's in there doing her makeup and everything, and Cassie's there. Well, ultimately, Maddie does find out, which we'll touch on later, that Nate and Cassie slept together. And all hell breaks loose, to the point where like Cassie's identity literally gets shrunk down to I love Nate Jacobs. That is what her persona and her personality is. And ultimately, Nate rejects it. So now she has left this broken character, I would say even in the mind. You know what I'm talking about, Dre, just from the play that was put on. She's broken. And I think it's going to overwhelm her to the point where like she's not going to know what to do with herself. So she's going to put herself in a psych ward.
So my biggest thing about Cassie just watching the show is that she needs a boyfriend. She's somebody who can't thrive without having
Which
a
we
boyfriend.
do know people like that. Like there are people that can't just be single.
Yeah, you know, and she needs to learn how to do that. But ultimately, I can see her trying to do that. She fails, and that's why she could end up in a psych ward. There's a couple scenes where her her and Nate were arguing while Nate was in the bathroom. He accidentally called her Maddie, and she's freaked out. And he's like, Maddie's crazy. And she's like, I am crazy.
Oh, yeah. She's like, I am crazier. I'm like,
Yeah.
holy jeez.
Yeah. Like, well, and then she was humbled, which we'll get down later, I'm pretty sure. You know, she was humbled in that instance. But, like, there was also the sense of where when Nate rejected her, when she was puking in the hot tub and stuff, and her mom's like, hide the knives. She told Lexi. She told Lexi to take the knives out of the kitchen and go put them in the bushes outside.
Wow.
And that was proven to be a good idea, because she actually tried to like cut her wrists with like a butter knife or a fork or something and failed.
This girl's out of her
like,
damn mind.
She's just extremely dramatic, and she don't know how to handle being alone.
Mm-hmm.
You know, she wasn't alone in season 1. She wasn't alone in season 2. So she could end up in a psych ward by season 3. So I can see why you predicted this.
Yeah, the main reason of why this is because which we'll get into, Lexi's play basically is all about their friend group. And Lexi takes a lot of like unnecessary, which I think they were a little unnecessary shots at her sister, Cassie. And Cassie ultimately loses it because there's a scene that drives Nate out of the theater and tells them that they're done. And I have never seen a crazier look than it pans to her eye and her like this part of like her face in the mirror of like the room, and it's the craziest look I've ever seen in my entire life. And then she gets on stage while the play is going on and tries to ultimately like destroy it from like the very ground up. It is one of the most craziest scenes I've ever seen. But yes, that's my prediction at number 4. Number 3 prediction, Nate will have a secret boyfriend. Nate in the show is ultimately confronted with a lot of just stupid shit that he does that is proving that he is the ultimate heel in a show. And at one point, like, he is in love with Maddie, and another thing, he's making a fake profile on Grindr and talking to Jules and ultimately meeting up with her, ultimately then going to Cassie and then discovering that, and this is a big shocker, I'm letting it all out because again, spoilers, his dad's story ultimately kills me. It kills me because we see like Cal as kind of like this dark villain, like from within another villain. And Cal essentially was this. He grew up, was on the wrestling team, ultimately confused with sexuality, had a best friend, and, eventually starts, talking to his wife at the time, and that would become his wife. But he and his friend on graduating go to a gay bar, and they end up kissing and having the best night of his life, only to wake up in the morning afterward that his girlfriend was pregnant. So everything that he wanted after that was shattered. It was shattered beyond belief because he wasn't going to leave her. So this drove a very, very dark obsession within him that I think will rub off on Nate, because now Nate knows all of this and he's confused. And what is he going to do? Being a confused teenager. So
yeah, the Cal Jacobs episode was probably one of my favorites of the show, honestly, because it gave us a true backstory of why he is the way he is, and it gave us a true visionary of how sick this guy. I don't want to say how sick he is, but like it's sort of peeled back the shell that he's not just a sick, twisted man. That he's there's some compassion behind it, because he did fall in love with his best friend, and there were indications that was going to happen throughout the monologue, where him and his best friend ultimately ended up having the same feelings for each other. But I will say this: I'm gonna I'm gonna take a step further. I'm gonna give you the character who I think it's gonna be.
Oh, I love this. Please.
I think it's gonna be Ethan. And I say that because in the season finale, where Ethan's like the main guy who is in the, he's like portraying the football team as gay, but he's like the main guy behind it in Lexi's play. And that ultimately is what got Nate so mad that he's like, Cassie, we're over. Like, we're done. I think it's going to be Ethan. And I believe that he might have, that maybe triggered him.
I do not hate that, Trey. That is an interesting interpretation of that. I would love to see that be brought to life. My number 2 is going to be, I think, one that is so simple that everyone's going to be like, that's not possible. And my number 2 is Rue will be sober all of season 3.
Could happen.
Now,
I don't really know what happens in season 2 yet.
I know, believe me, when we talk about it, I know, but there is not a doubt in my mind after this past couple episodes of season 2 that she wouldn't stay sober. Like, through all that she was been through, for all she put everybody else through. And it seems for a while that she's like doing well. It's just, is something going to happen in season 3 where it's going to push her over the edge and make her go back? I don't know. But for me, I think that there's a strong chance that we see a sober Rue all of season 3.
I don't disagree. I just agree to a point. And I'll say this because, and hopefully this doesn't spoil your next one, but she has unfinished business that she doesn't know about with the big drug kingpin, who said that if you don't pay me for these drugs I'm giving you, I will sell you into prostitution. In relating that to other movies, like specifically Taken with Liam Neeson, where his daughter's friend ends up, where they end up in getting sold into prostitution.
Brothels and rings, yeah.
Yeah. He finds his daughter's friend with a needle in her arm because they drug these women so they don't know what they're doing, which is ultimately so where they become property. I say that because the only way to get the Rue into that ring would be to dope her up. So
Yep.
At some point I feel like that might come to fruition, but we do know that there is unfinished business out there.
Yeah, and it's funny how people always go, I hope this isn't spoiling your number 1. And then it ends up doing. Because for me, my number 1 is Lori will come after Rue. So Lori, who crazy enough used to be a school teacher, now turned drug kingpin. There is a scene where Rue, in order to get, quote, in her mind, free drugs, she pitches this plan to Lori in order to sell drugs within the school system. And she's like, oh, that's wonderful. I'll agree. And she starts her off, I'm not joking on the price here, a $10,000 suitcase. It was originally going to be $50,000. Dre and I know that. Like, it was originally going to be $50,000. She wanted to start smaller. So a $10,000 suitcase of variety of different drugs. And Rue had no intention of selling those drugs. She uses them to her discretion. And what ends up happening is that Rue's family finds out that she is back on drugs, and they flush the entire stash down the toilet.
Oh, wow.
$10,000 worth of drugs gone. And
maybe 6 at that point.
Maybe 6, because there is a lot.
She was doing them.
She
was doing them.
Yeah, it's true. And I thought it was going to happen in season 2 because she literally on the run, nowhere else to go, goes back to Lori with all the stuff that she's stolen, all this money, and I don't know what they gave her. She gave her like I don't even know what it was, Dre. I can't think of off the top of my head now.
It was morphine.
It was morphine. Thank you. But it was a different morphine. Like, it wasn't regular. It was something else that shouldn't be messed with. Like, it's a dangerous form of morphine. And that's it. She ends up escaping, and then we don't see or hear from Lori for like the whole rest of the show. There's got to be retribution there.
Yeah.
You don't just get away with stealing $10,000 worth of drugs and not paying it back.
Exactly.
But she ends up going back, and she's like, well, you could have just called me. Like, very monotone, like almost like psychopathic, like, man, it's coming. I know it is, and maybe one does contradict two, but to me, like, something's got to give. And I thought that with an ending of the show, I thought that's kind of where it was going, but another time for another end. So yes, what we're going to do now is our great debate really isn't, I don't know. Do we just want to skip the debate, honestly? Because it's really not anything.
We can just hit it real quick.
Okay.
We don't have to make.
We don't have to dissect it.
Yeah.
Okay. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna tell you guys, what this is, and then we'll take a commercial break and come back with the top 10. So it's really a question of either option A or option B. So does Euphoria focus more on drugs or mental health? It's a big one. It's a big question, but like, I think it can be summed up in a lot of ways. So what I'm going to do is, I know I don't want to put Greg first, but I'm going to do this because Greg knows about as little of the show out of all of us. So I want to get his take first, and then we can just go down the line from there of who wants to go next.
From what I've seen, I would say the show is definitely more of a focus on mental health that just so happens to have a lot of drugs in it. And I would say that's the best way I can point it, because I think every single character because not every single character does drugs in this show, I believe. So therefore, if you want to encompass it as a whole, I think it's more of a focus on one's mental health.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And to piggyback off that, I would agree with mental health. I think it's more so it's everyone's mental health, and they turn to drugs to try to battle that mental health, try to control it, try to feel better. So that's why I think mental health is more of the focus here, whereas drugs is just like a way they deal with everything.
Gotcha. Dre?
So what I will say is there are a lot of characters that go through mental battles in this show, but some of them you kind of see that overcome, and then you have the master manipulators and the Jacobs family. So in this instance, I'm going to say it focuses on drug use because that is the more highly dramatized portion of the show, whereas Rue's the main character, and she has her mental health issues drove her to do drugs, but her struggles ultimately are it affects everybody. It doesn't just affect her, and you see that down the line. It affects everybody, and if she wasn't a drug addict, some of the mental health issues out there would be solved. So I think it's drug use.
Right. I'm going to piggyback off Dre here. I think that whereas mental health in this show is very important, I think that drug use and the drug actions from a lot of these characters are what causes kind of like a little bit of your mental health breaks for some people, that they go through so much stuff because of these drugs that all these things are happening. So, it's essentially, if you take a piece of cheese and you throw it on the ground, there's going to be a mouse. If you don't throw the cheese on the ground, there's ultimately no mouse. So one can't exist without the other one. So for me, I'm going to say that in this instance, it's going to be drug use for this. Ultimately, it's everybody's own interpretation of the show. That's what makes it so great. Mm-hmm. That, in a show that has varying opinions, it's all there. So what we're going to do now, go get a beer if you haven't. Go take a whiz if you haven't. Because we'll be right back, because Dre and I are going head-to-head in our top 10 ranking moments of Euphoria. Stay tuned.
Let's dive right into sports, as I have strong opinions on it. Which college team could beat a professional team in the same sport right now?
Okay.
There is not a single answer that is better than the LSU Tigers. defeating the Cincinnati Bengals.
Even if I know the pitch that's coming, every other part of me is still
That's why
normal.
it's frustrating for me, Greg.
It's like okay, if I know what something is coming, I know ahead of time. I still have to be able to do the action to get the result that I need.
Okay, so they won 3 games in 10 years with 3 rebuilds.
I don't lose at arguments. All right.
Especially about fast food. So yeah.
You will never walk alone. Guess what? Now you will. Coronavirus.
I barely touch my girlfriend's cat. The most I'd be willing to do is like just kind of put my finger on its forehead and just like.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, with us is Alex Kazor from Steelers Depot.
We are live with Ryan Smith, professional cornhole player in the ACL. Ryan,
What all franchises were you able to work with in the NHL?
With Phoenix, Carolina, and Detroit.
So here is Moorhead's ranking. Moorhead is my cousin. He is the rank king.
Higher
Top 10 extra Power Rangers.
This is the top 10 emo songs of the 2000s.
There's only one correct answer for number 1. Why is F is for Family better than Futurama when Futurama is like Star Wars for potheads? Like
I know. I think
We have one or two that are mad in the chat.
you're welcome for that.
All right, we're gonna get banned.
And we are back. Welcome back to the Rankings Courts episode of Euphoria with Dre and Bo and Greg. So,
Yeah, we're here.
In the background, you know, just mind.
I will say I'm definitely going to finish the show. So
I'm
Yes.
glad you two are here. I miss you guys. And seeing your faces.
that's
Well,
not
except
for you,
Greg,
Austin.
I
That's
figured
just for
that.
Dre.
Yeah.
That's what I figured. So what we normally do when we have a guest, I ask them to do a top 10 on this subject. I do a top 10, and we're going to see which one is better. Mine, it's fine. But let's divulge into it because we are talking the top 10 Euphoria moments. There are a lot, so there is quite a bit of things to get through. So let's get into it. I'm going to hit no. Dre's going to give his 10, I'll give my 10, and then we'll domino back and forth off then.
All right, perfect. So my number 10, I don't want to talk a lot about it, but it's definitely number 10. It's Cassie gets an abortion.
Yeah.
It's her and McKay, her boyfriend from season 1, had unprotected sex, and ultimately she ended up getting an abortion based off of what her mother said, because her mother said one thing: don't get pregnant at 18. And she did. So that would be number 10.
Yeah, that's that was a very my number 10.
Yeah, it's just something
Yeah.
that's
Yeah, I get you, man. I get you. Number 10 for me is Fez beating up Nate. 100%. It is the first time that we see Fez enraged, angry with something to prove, and also something to protect. So, I mean, it's beat up to the point where like Nate has to get taken to the hospital.
Yeah, you would think that'd be your number
Yeah,
one
this-
since you hate Nate.
I was gonna say this seems really low
Yeah.
for like how big of a moment that a lot of people felt like this was.
There's moments coming. Don't
All
you
right,
worry.
well, I
There-
guess we'll buckle up for the rest of them.
buckle up, baby.
Crap, I didn't bring a seatbelt.
Uh-oh. See ya, Greg.
Damn it.
Dre, number 9.
Number 9. Number 9 is actually how Euphoria kicks off in the pilot. It is Cal and Jules hook up. As we talked about this earlier in the show, Jules is underage, and she portrays herself as older than what she is. And Cal, who we didn't know was Nate Jacobs' dad at the time, meets her in a hotel room. And I got to say, when I first saw this, I automatically figured there was going to be a murder. Spoiler alert, there wasn't. There was not.
Thank
But
God.
Yeah, but yeah, it is my number 9 on the list because it kind of it starts everything and it kind of sets a tone for what we're in store for.
Yeah,
with the show.
Which I mean, it's more of a let's put it this way. I like that it's here, Dre. I like that it's near the bottom because honestly, it's a shocking moment that it's happening, but it's an even shockinger. That's not a right word, but shockinger moment that it turns out to be
more shocking.
More shocking moment
Shockinger.
that it turns out to. I'm a glossary. It's a more shocking moment to when we find out that it's Nate's dad.
Yeah, that was crazy.
That basically owns half the town.
Yeah.
So, my number 9. Ashtray kills Mouse. This was a huge thing for me because Ash, being the young, couldn't have been more than what, like 10, 11 years old, right? Like,
yeah, I have no idea. When he first popped on, I was like, "Is that a kid?" Like me and Morgan were watching. I was like, "Is that a kid?" And he's like a drug dealer.
But Mouse is ultimately the drug dealer that forces Rue to take fentanyl and kind of gives her another spiral to go through. What we find out is that, Fezco, in order to pay Mouse back because Mouse brings in all this shipment of drugs, and since the place gets raided, Fez needs money in order to get that done. So when Fez provides, I'll say, the quote-unquote blood money, because there is a scene where his partner looks down and this wad of money is just covered in blood, and there is a huge just stare off, and then it ends and we don't find out until season 2 that Ashtray jumps up and slits Mouse's throat.
Damn.
It's a huge. I'm just like, dang, whoa, because at the beginning of season 2, I'm like, where's Mouse? And we find out that an 11-year-old kid kills him. So it's crazy that kind of brings Lori into the mix. But yes, that is my number 9. Dre, what do you got for number 8?
I just want to say Mouse, being this big tough guy, died because of an 11-year-old. What a softie.
That 11-year-old packed a punch, and you know it.
Oh, I know. Ashtray, the best. My number 8 is Fez beats up Nate. He gets his ultimate revenge for Nate snitching on him, and he completely did it sort of unsolicitedly. He didn't have the proof. He just made an assumption. Again, as the audience, as I said before, us as the audience, we knew what happened. But for, Fez to kind of do that, and Fez to show some violence that I didn't know was there. And that was after he first came in contact with Lexi too. So he went from nice guy, sensitive guy to drug dealer and a snap, and just completely destroyed a character we all hated. And which somehow made us further sympathize with Fez. So
it's just wonderful. This is wonderful.
It really is.
It's funny because my number 8 also involves Nate, but my number 8 is Nate chokes Maddie and blackmails Jules all in one night.
That was a crazy night for him, for sure.
Yes. The episode 4 is the carnival scene, which primarily the mid-season finale, which was done spectacularly. Nate ends up Maddie and Cassie do, I think, ecstasy, and they become just terrible people at this carnival. Yeah. It's awful. And Nate's dad, who wins this chili contest that he wins every single year,
he brags about it. It's just for the county, makes it seem like it's a national chili contest.
Yes. And Maddie gets tired of it being all about Nate, so proceeds to make total fools out of both the Jacobs parents, to where Nate gets mad and literally takes her behind and literally chokes her, and pushes her up against the wall and chokes her to the point where she's got bruises. After that, he goes to meet up with Jules, because when that was happening, before that, Jules finds out that that's Nate Jacobs' dad that she screwed. And now Nate knows that they hooked up. So Nate gets all this evidence on Jules that if you don't do what I say, these pictures and everything are going to leak out. And it's so he's such an evil character, man. It's bad. And he uses this blackmail to essentially put this other kid behind bars and frame him for choking Maddie. And it is the most diabolical. He's a diabolical character, man. I hate him. That's my number 8. What do you got for 7, Dre?
Well, you kind of just spoiled it. I guess I deserved it. Cal finds out Jules is underage. That's number 7 on my list because it puts a light on Cal Jacobs that like we didn't know was there until we had to until that moment because we didn't know that he was the guy that hooked up with Jules until until a certain point.
It was just an awkward moment for everybody.
Yeah, and I've never seen him so humbled. He was like scared for his life because
he was shaking his chili in his hand.
Yeah, because he was going to lose everything. He's going to lose the contest. He's going to lose his business. He's going to lose,
lose the contest.
It is the most important thing about.
Is that right when you were drinking too? Right when you were drinking. Oh, it's perfect timing. But yeah, number 7 on my list is when Cal finds out Jules is underage, and also for her, she was kind of like, "Oh my God, there's that guy."
Yeah,
she didn't know what to do. So.
Yeah. My number 7. Arguably, maybe should be higher, but I had to put it here with all the other stuff that I got in here. Number 7 is Cal's twisted past. I touched on it already, so I won't go into too much detail. But we find out that Cal is actually, he wants to be gay with his best friend, and then wakes up in the morning to find out that his girlfriend at the time was pregnant. So he had to leave all that behind, and ultimately, it kind of makes him turn out to be like this just brutal honesty character of just absolute deception. And that's why it's at 7 for me, because it ultimately sets everything up. So
yeah, and he blames his kids for it, which is
that scene was weird, man.
Yeah, that was another weird scene. My number 6, Austin, you kind of touched on it already, is Nate frames Tyler. To me, that was the first real chance we got to see how diabolical Nate was, but in the sense that he would do anything for Maddie. He started out because it started out where Maddie and this kid Tyler were hooking up in the pool. Maddie's 17, 18, and Tyler was like 22. So he's underage, but like Nate loves Maddie so much that he would do anything for her. So he broke into this dude's apartment, waited for him to come home, and then beat him senseless, and then framed him for sexual assault for Maddie, and then framed him for assault.
Yeah, and that was after he broke into his house again.
Yeah,
it was
absolutely. It was insane that he did that to that dude, and I'm sure that might come back around in season 3. As you talked about your predictions earlier, but this was the first real chance we got to see how diabolical Nate actually is.
Yep. And one thing I want to touch on before I get to my number 6, Maddie did all of this to make Nate jealous. That's why all this is happening in the first place. So it's just poor Tyler, dude.
That's why she's terrible in season 1.
Yeah, every time that dude came on the screen, I was just like, poor Tyler, dude. Like, this kid has no chance.
He has his neck brace and everything. He's like, oh, what are you doing here again?
Oh, my God. Number 6 for me is Lexi's play. How it's put on, the fact that literally like 2 seconds in, and Maddie goes, wait, is this fucking play about us? It's just so funny. So funny. And then all of the drama that unfolds into it, and including Cassie getting on stage and just trying to destroy the whole thing. Like, it is mind-blowingly crazy. Had to be on there for me. It's a number 6.
Yeah, I like that. I like that on your list a lot. Where are we at here?
Number 5.
Number 5 is Rue begs Fez for drugs.
Scene, man.
I put this one on my list because it was extremely powerful in the sense that there was 2 things. Number 1, we saw how desperate that Rue would get in order to get her fix. But in the other sense, we saw how much Fez actually cared about her to the point where he would not give her drugs. And she was begging him. And she was saying, after he threw her out, she was banging on the door saying things like, you screwed me up. You did this to me. You, pointing fingers. When again, drug addicts don't do that. They don't take responsibility. You know, they blame everybody else. You know, because it's just part of how their mind is working. Because they're only worried about getting their fix. But in the same breath, you have Fez behind the door, like basically crying because he understands that A, she's messed up and he can't do anything about it, and B, like he sort of might be responsible for this because he did sell her drugs.
Yep.
So, you know, it breaks his heart that he's kind of sort of feeling responsible for this. So it's a very powerful scene. So it's number 5 on my list.
My number 5 is arguably, I think, the most powerful scene and scenes of this entire show. It's not the most shocking, but it is the most powerful. And I quoted it as simply number 5, Rue's rampage. This is after Rue finds out that, you know, she wakes up and she doesn't know where the suitcase of drugs is. And she is confronted by her mom and her sister. And then, you know, she's like, where'd you put the pills? Where's my pills? Where are my pills? And all of a sudden you hear in the background, Jules say, we flushed them. Jules is there. Elliot is there. And Rue goes on probably one of the most, Zendaya goes along the lines of one of the most brutal and powerful monologues I've ever heard come out of somebody's mouth, to the sense of, you know, there's a lot of regrets that I have in my life. Meeting you was probably the worst, like to the point where like she's saying, I don't want to, like talking to her mom about her dad and like how terrible a mother, like it's heartbreaking, man. Like to see someone self-destruct so much to the point where like they go and try and take her to rehab, and she gets out of the car and starts running on the highway to try to get away from everybody. And there's a point that I'll make that is the next point, but I'll skip that for now and just go on to the basics where she breaks into a house and tries to steal money. She breaks into, like, she should break it, but she walks into Fez's place and tries to steal some of his comatose grandmother's medication. And that draws the line with Fez to where, like, he's like, you gotta go. Like, this is it. You can't come back. And it's powerful, man. It's such a powerful scene, man. And yeah, breaks into a normal, just a random person's house, tries to steal all this cash and money to try and pay Lori back. It's powerful, and just overall kind of just anxiety just builds up and builds up throughout this entire scene. So it's my number 5.
My number 4 is Nate hooks up with Cassie. That kind of sparked season 2, and it sparked a lot of events after that because they had the secret relationship. But at this point, we know that Cassie's broken up with McKay. We also know that at the very least, at this point, Maddie and Cassie, or Maddie's still not with Nate, but the Cassie's going behind Maddie's back and hooking up with her boyfriend. You know, someone that she has a long history with. And if you're supposed to be your best friend, you just kind of broke that code. So again, it sparks off so much that transpires throughout season 2, but it's kind of in the opening. So, but yeah, it's my number 4 on my list.
Yeah, my number 4 is an interesting one because it has a lot to do with number 5, and I'm gonna say this as best to my ability because I try to have like a beep button or something in the background to censor it, but I'll just skip over the word, I guess. And my number 4 is, how long have you been f***ing Nate Jacobs? It is the line from Rue when she goes over to Cassie's house to try to steal more stuff. Her mom already knows that she's going to be there. So there is an entire intervention of people that are down there when she has like stolen stuff. And Cassie just says the wrong thing at the wrong time. She's like, oh, it's okay. You could be yourself. And Rue goes, hey, Cassie, how long have you been fucking Nate Jacobs? And Maddie and everybody else is there.
No.
And it sparks everything. Like, it is And you just see the panic, the immediate panic on Cassie's face, where she's like, "What are you talking about? What are you know? Like, we're gonna believe it?" Maddie proceeds to absolutely try to kick the crap out of Cassie, which takes all the attention away from Rue, and Rue runs out.
She's basically like, "I'm suffering here. Now it's your turn."
Yeah,
here
like,
we go.
as Dre has said, it is the burning village. Like, she is trying to take everybody down with her. So that is my number 4. We knew it was going to come sooner or later, but in that sense, wow, like, it was a blockbuster just live.
Yeah, absolutely wild. My jaw dropped, honestly. My number 3, Ashtrays in a shootout with the cops. You know, I assume this might be 2 or 1 on your list, and it should be very high on a lot of lists. But it was first off, it was badass. Not getting shot, but it was badass. It was a badass scene. But you could see again the pain in Fezco's eyes that you know, his little brother is just doing this thing to not go to jail, not get arrested, not go back into foster care, anything like that. You see. You notice that this kind of happened after the fact that Fez was going to leave and go to Lexi's play, which kind of, you know, that kind of sucked because that was where the love interest was supposed to be cultivated in a, you know, an official relationship, as you saw that being built. But Ashtray, you know, ultimately kind of, you know, he made his own decision. It kind of sucks, but, you know, I just think that he didn't want to go back to jail or go back into foster care where, you know, wherever he came from. It's just, it sucks because it was so dramatic. It was so well written, but it was so dramatic, and ultimately ended up in his demise. And, you know, I always pour one out for my guy Ash because, you know, he was a real one. Didn't say much.
He was awesome.
He really was, man. So to Ash.
Meanwhile, this is a 10 and 11-year-old you're pouring one out to, for the record.
Yeah.
Pour one out for all the homies. Pour one out for all the homies.
Always.
My number 3, it might not be a big one, but it is to me. My number 3 is Jules leaves Rue at the train station. It is the ultimate ending of what season 1 is, to where they were at a dance and Rue just notions, let's just leave town. And Jules just goes, okay, let's do it. And Rue ultimately, like, didn't think that was going to be what would happen, and she finally starts second guessing herself to the point where Jules is on the train and Rue doesn't get on. And so, but we think, oh, Jules is just going to get down. Jules leaves, and it leaves like a huge, like, what the hell, like, at the end of season 1, you know, to the point where, like, that's when Rue goes back to doing drugs, and it sparks everything in season 2. So that's why it's for me at number 3.
Yes, and I like that at 3. My number 2, and I'm going to try to keep these brief because I know that we touched on a lot of these, is Rue snitches on Cassie and Nate hooking up. That's definitely my number 2 scene because, again, my jaw dropped. I did not expect it to happen. This is after she jumped out of the car. This is when she went into the house, and no one thought anything was wrong. She goes upstairs, comes back down, and finds her mom and her sister there, and everyone's looking like, knows at this point what's happening. And then she's like, oh, by the way, while we're worried about me, Maddie, your best friend is smashing your boyfriend. Like, no one knows about it. But how she said it was just, like, absolutely dramatic and awesome. Put that in great context. So, that's number 2 for me.
My number 2 for me was by far the most shocking scene aside from number 1. Number 2 is Nate's Russian roulette. This is one of the most powerful things, because this is, so Maddie ends up stealing the tape of Cal and Jules hooking up and is ultimately going to use it to ruin Cal. And Nate goes over with a gun and, like, essentially lays on top of Maddie and points it at his own head how many times until there's nothing left. And it is a scene that absolutely puts me on edge for just anxiety, for all this. It's nuts. And, you know, when Nate ultimately gives this back to Jules, she's like, wow, are you all a good person? All of a sudden he goes, no, you should have seen what I did to get this. And it is a wild scene. I did not think that that was even going to be remotely on a sense of topics, but that is for me why it is at number 2.
So my number 1 is Rue's intervention. That was what Austin was talking about. It kicked off the beginning where ultimately she ended up talking about Cassie and Nate, but it sparked everything. She destroyed her room, destroyed her parents' room, was fighting her sister physically, all because she couldn't find her briefcase of drugs when she realized not only do I not get my drugs, but B, I'm also in debt to $10,000 to Lori. You don't realize what you did, Mom? And I know why, and we're watching, she had the good intentions, but, she just destroyed everybody. She destroyed her mom. She destroyed her sister, basically calling them worthless, destroyed her relationship with Jules, and destroyed I'm gonna say the actress Dominic, Elliot is his name.
Yeah.
Destroyed Elliot too, because basically said it was his fault too. So that whole entire scene sparked one of the craziest episodes in this show. So that is my number 1.
And my number 1, Dre had touched on it, if this would be number 1 or number 2. This was number 1 for me, and is Ashtray is killed by the police. Not only did I not think this would end up in a shootout, but not only did I think that these cops would shoot an 11-year-old boy, in the head, nonetheless. It was because we see the dot just start going up and up.
Whoa.
And then it cuts to just Fez, and we hear the bullet or the shot of the gun, and I said, oh no. I was like, you can't do that, man. Come on. I was so furious. But yes, Ashtray killed by the police is my number 1. Though I am sorry that we spoiled this whole entire show for you.
It's all right.
You were you were doing.
That last one though, that hurts.
It does.
He's one of my favorite characters.
You should 100% watch it, regardless of.
Oh, I definitely
I know you're
will,
watching it, but I feel like we're not doing the justice that the show actually deserves.
Right. It deserves a lot more that we can't fit in a time frame, and maybe we'll come back with it and bring Dre on for another
We could do
rendition
season
of
3.
In a few years.
Yeah, when
I better be back on before 2024.
No, that's when it's set, man. That's when it's set, unfortunately.
See you in 2024, everyone.
Dre, thank you again for being on. I know we've had to cut a couple of our last points short, but this has been probably one of the most powerful episodes, I would think, that the Rankings Court has done, and I'm happy that you were a part of it, my friend. So thank you again.
I'm always glad to talk the real. This is a show that kind of puts everything in perspective with struggles that a lot of us can't necessarily put into context. So I highly recommend to watch it. I hope we did the show justice, which was what we were trying to do today. But most importantly, I just want to say thank you, Austin. Thank you, Greg, and thank you, Bo, for having me on the Ranking Court. And I can't wait to come back. So I appreciate it, boys.
We'll see you in 2024.
I'll mark my calendar.
We'll see you until then. Don't show up. So thank you again to everybody watching. You can always find us 6:30 on Twitch for Tuesdays. Go and watch Deke play some video games, Twisted Tea with D, after this. And you can always find us every Tuesday, 6:30 on Twitch. Gavel Greg. I'm just going to start calling you that, Gavel Greg.
I like
Grab
it.
that gavel. Court is adjourned.
Court is adjourned.